Fire up some music. I guarantee it'll get you off the couch.
Yeah.
Guarantee it. Have you ever found yourself marching around the kitchen like a dinosaur or jump, jump, pump it up, chipmunk at the gas pump? If so, you already know her work.
But I feel kind of funny. I shake my dark back.
Laurie Berkner, the undisputed queen of children's music and getting kids moving through music. Welcome to the Active Play Everyday podcast powered by Next Playground. I'm your host, Dr. Emily, pediatrician, mom of three, and childhood wellness advocate. This show is about one simple goal: helping your family find a realistic path to 60 minutes of active play every day. No guilt, no pressure, just finding what works in real life. The information shared here is for education and inspiration. It's not medical advice. Always consult your healthcare provider for guidance specific to your family. All right, let's get moving. I want to talk about something I've heard you talk about that I love, and this is this idea of human tempo. And so take us through, like, where did this concept come from, and how did you discover this sort of magic where music and movement go together in this way?
One was that I noticed when I sang songs, especially when we're marching or stepping, I found myself moving at a really similar pace each time. Like I was surprised if I would check a metronome. If you listen to dance music, like electronic dance music, a lot of it is at 120 beats per second, which is two per minute, not per second. So it's
Okay,
2 beats
yeah.
per second, right? So you're at that, like what we think of as a minute. I'm doing that too fast. Boom, boom. It's something like that.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Yep.
all of those things I thought were really interesting. Of course, it partly depends on the size of your body. So your body's going to affect how easily and quickly and slowly you move it. When I'm thinking about it being something intrinsically human, to me, it's also related to breathing and heart rate, heart beating. I notice, like, oh, we breathe in, we breathe out, our heart is pumping, we move our bodies in rhythmic, kind of repetitive rhythmic ways when we're getting from one place to another. We respond to cycles of seasons of light, of just all these like ways of thinking, sleep, awake, like all the things that our bodies respond to have kind of they have this regulatory regulating kind of rhythm. Thinking about rhythm is really, really important when I'm writing a song. And again, it's not so much about it can change, but if I'm not paying attention to it, then I'm missing something really important about the song and how I think kids naturally respond to music.
I love what you're saying about the rhythms that exist in the human body. Most of where I work clinically is the pediatric emergency department. And, the heart actually beats, just like you said, 100 to 120 beats a minute. And that's the rhythm to doing CPR even. And, the song by the Bee Gees, Staying Alive, dun, 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 staying alive, right? And so it gets you moving. And we found that, linking up any sort of music to those bodily rhythms, you naturally just start to move with it. And I've heard you tell a story about one of your first observations of this way back when. And I wonder if you might share that. Like, I think you were in a preschool.
I pay attention a lot to, are the kids having fun and able to be part of what we're doing, right? So I'm inviting them to interact in lots of my songs. But if they can't keep up with it, or it's confusing and frustrating to them, then the song isn't really serving them. But having said that, at different ages, of course, every child is at a different developmental stage in their life. A slightly older kid or a kid who is maybe a little more attuned to a certain kind of physical movement, or maybe even how to say a word, or a rhythmic clapping or something, who learns how to do that more quickly, will not only get the song more quickly, but also, and then feel mastery over it more quickly, but they might also move on from it more quickly. So sort of finding that in between where the kids who are struggling still have something to hold on to, and kids who are younger have something to hold on to, and then they can grow into more in the song. So the song stays relevant for them for longer. And that I
Yeah.
think I am always thinking a little bit about that, because I don't want like a 4-year-old to be like, I totally get this song, and a 2-year-old doesn't listen to it at all. And by the time that 4-year-old is 5 or 6, they're done with it, you know?
Yeah.
So the longevity is important. I
Go
just
ahead.
wanted to say before you asked me, how did I notice those things? And
Yeah.
one of the things that I was doing at the time when I was a preschool music teacher was I was in core energetic and bioenergetic therapy, which is like a really body-based psychotherapy. And so I was thinking a lot about how my feelings connected to the way my
Mm-hmm.
body moved. And I was noticing it in the kids, and I was really like wanting to encourage them to experience their bodies and love their bodies in ways that I remembered when I was a kid, but then some maybe lost some around
Mm.
along the way. And it felt so important to be able to like give them a lot of things that maybe I had lost or I didn't ever really feel or have.
You're hitting on something really profound, right? Because one of the things we know is that if a parent is moving, and whether that's, active play type of exercise or dancing along to one of your songs, the child is much more likely to engage and to make that kind of part of their habits, right? And if you've ever been to one of your concerts, you're up there moving constantly, right? And it's contagious. You see all the kids also moving. And part of that is your music. And part of it is that you're also sort of, I think, demonstrating to them how one could move with this music. And so I think that's a really big part of the magic of what you've done is that even me, as a 47-year-old mom of a, 2-year-old, almost 3-year-old, I am also dancing around the kitchen and really having this shared movement joy that I can still enjoy. And, my 11-year-old
Oh,
pretends that
good.
she's too cool for this. But then I see, just
I'm
like you're
glad.
saying, there are parts of the song that she all of a sudden, it's contagious and you really can't help yourself. You mentioned a word earlier. We were talking about the human tempo, but you said also there was another cadence to the music and you used a word,
Meter.
meter. Can you maybe show us like on the guitar what you mean by the human tempo and what you mean by meter
Yeah.
and how those may be integrated into your music? It'd be cool to hear.
Yeah. I also want to say that, like, when you're totally right, that when I'm moving around, the idea is to model what the kids
Yes,
can be
to
doing.
model.
And that, like, I learned very early on that it's much more effective to do the things or sing about the things that I want to encourage kids to do than to talk about them. Because talking
Yes.
is like the Charlie Brown.
Yeah, that's right. Absolutely true.
They're
And the younger the kid is, I think the more that's true,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Yes, 100%.
They understand fewer words, they have less context.
Yeah.
There's like so many reasons not to pay attention, and they tempo is just this generally it's just the speed of at what pace or what speed are you playing a song. I'm looking at your shirt.
Yeah. Nice. Yeah.
So if I'm playing Buzz, I was sitting in my garden. I could play it slower, and that would be a slower tempo, or faster, that would be a faster tempo.
Right.
But if instead of one it's a 4/4 meter, which
Yeah.
is 4 beats to every measure. If I were to change that and make it 6/8 or a 3/4 tempo, which will sound similar, it would be like, I was sitting in my garden when I saw Bumblebee. Right, it totally changes the rhythm of what I'm
Yeah.
singing.
And it changed what I wanted to do with my body. I mean, I just felt that inherently, it
Yeah.
just happens. That's amazing.
Well, there were two things. I took one like night class in Dalcroze Eurythmics, which is about teaching kids music through the rhythm of the music and using their bodies to express it. So that I was like, yeah, that's that makes sense to me. And then the other thing was that I was working with super young kids at that point. I started in a preschool, but then I segued into adding on the Infant and Child Center at the school I was working at, which is at Rockefeller University. And so suddenly I was working with like infants, and I was
Yeah.
doing caregiver and child classes. And so I was doing baby ones as well. And there would be, by the time a baby was maybe 6 months old, they could sit up, right?
Yeah,
So
that's right.
when,
Yep.
right. So when you watch a 6 month old, if you do something, I mean, maybe they'll do this to rock, but what I
Mm-hmm.
really saw was,
Yeah. Huh. Yeah, and then they start bound. They do this. That's right.
yeah,
Hundred
yeah, like
percent.
they've been alive for 6 months and
Yes.
their bodies do
Yes.
that. Like they just sit
That's
there and they're
right.
like, and
Right to the music, I bet. Yep.
exactly. And that
That
was
is
what
so
made me
cool.
realize, oh, if I really want a kid to do a thing with their whole body, I shouldn't just sing about it. I should change the music to cuteness,
Yes.
right? So I
Yes.
do in the middle
Yes.
of a song a lot of times, like, get in your airplanes and off we go. Going to New York is first, So now, this is for, now we're gonna land. Now slow way
Yes.
down and land on the ground. And I go to 6/8. That's just to give
Yep.
them a feeling of, oh, everything's
Yep.
changing and I'm gonna stop running around with my arms out.
Yes.
And when you get out, you're gonna jump all around. It's a different rhythm now. So there
Yes.
really are like, there's a lot of different parts of it to think about. And that rhythm, just like you might call like a ska beat, was often how I
Yeah.
describe it, because that like quick upstroke on the guitar where what you're emphasizing is the offbeat instead of
Uh-huh.
one,
Yes.
two, three,
Yep.
four. It's one and two and three and four
Yep.
and like all those are the emphasized beats.
What you're talking about, right, is practicing behavioral regulation and sort of going from that high energy down to that low energy. There's a ton coming out in the research around sort of neurodiversity and ADHD and all these things that like practicing that. So going from high energy, regulating quickly, low energy, back up to high energy, back down to low energy. That is so good for humans. It's also really good for adults to practice, especially children. And as they learn to sort of like control their frontal lobe and self-regulate, you can do it through
I
music.
didn't realize that that was good for kids. What I noticed
It
about
is.
it
It is.
was that it keeps them engaged with me. Like suddenly there's something else that's going on that's like, whoa, wait,
Mm-hmm.
what's that? And it pulls
Yeah.
them back in when they're like, whoa, their brain's going
Yeah.
off. And I was adult diagnosed with ADHD. And I think it's part of why I'm very good on stage, because I can just be
Mm-hmm.
like, oh, there's this happening, that's happening. And I can pull all that stuff in
Yes.
and then like, boom, and do what I need to do. Anyway,
That's
the
great.
point was that you were talking about that up and down. And
Yes. The behavioral regulation and
right. So
ability to, yeah.
that's fascinating, because really what
Yes.
I was doing was just like, okay, we are the dinosaurs marching. Okay, we're
Mm-hmm.
marching. Now they're starting to hurt each other. Okay, okay, stop and
Yeah.
take
And
a
then,
rest. Oh, it's different musical feel there. It's still the
yep.
same meter, it's still the same
Yep.
tempo, but it's quieter. And I'm starting to like pick the guitar a little. I'm to change the rhythm of what they're
Mm-hmm.
hearing. And the instructions are different. So now it's like, oh wait,
Yes.
what? I have to take a rest. Where? Oh, on the ground, or take or eat some food on the ground. Great. In my nest. I don't remember my own words, but
Yeah.
like they do
That's
all
it.
the
You're right.
things
Yeah.
and they have to pay
Yep.
attention. Then it's like, oh, okay, quick. I gotta go. Everyone else is lying down. I'm gonna lie down. Okay. And
Yep.
then like, whoa, I get to get up, and before I
Yep.
fall asleep in my nap position.
Yes.
So
Right.
I
Yeah.
did use that to try. It was really for classroom management more than it was for
Mm-hmm.
like regulating the kids. But I think maybe there was something intuitive about that because it's very good for me. And so I felt like,
Yeah.
oh, well, this probably will help here. And then it did. So I kept doing it,
Yes. For, the Active Play Everyday podcast, one of the things that we want to do is give parents all these ideas of how they can get kids moving. Only 1 in 4 children across our country get the recommended daily movement that's recommended, 60 minutes a day. 1 in 4. And so, giving them ideas, and what you just talked about is this sort of stop, go, stop approach. And it's so good for behavioral regulation. And it's also a really good way to do movement, right? And you can do it through music. You can do it through games out on the playground. Stop, go, stop. And so, parents write that down and listen for it in Laurie Berkner's music. There's a ton of it, and it's good for adults and children alike, just like what we talked about. And I think it's part of the reason why I also appreciate your music so much. Could you talk to us about, thinking of like other things parents can do? There's Berkner Breaks and Berkner Bytes. And I think both of them kind of are modeling that physical activity that you can do with music that might not be totally intuitive to every parent. So tell us about those and how folks might be able to use those in their everyday.
The Berkner breaks are really just what I'm thinking about as play this video or listen to this song and use it to get your kids up and moving, and maybe yourself. And when I do a little online mini concerts, like every 6 to 8 weeks, those are my live Berkner breaks, and they're longer. They're more like 30 to 40 minutes with, just kind of the same thing. Like, I don't think about just in the song, the up and down and the rhythm of, like, to me, that's also a rhythm of the song. We have up, we come down. We have come up, we come down. We're doing that like we're breathing and like we're sleeping and awake, and like all of just following all those natural human regulatory, ways that we live, but also within a set list. I do that at a concert, in a live Berkner break, on an album. Like, nobody listens to albums in order anymore, but it used to be. I mean, when I first started, I was making cassettes, so I got to think about each side of the cassette was like a set list, basically.
And for parents, younger parents, we will put a picture of a cassette down here in case you don't know. I know what one is, but you never know. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, so when I'm doing a set, when I think about what songs I'm going to sing, it may be, for those live Berkner breaks, we do it. It's theme-based, like thematic, where I'm choosing, or singing about animals, or I'm singing about springtime, or I'm singing about games, or whatever. But I do think about, okay, what kind of energy do I want to start with? Where do I move to in the next song? Where does that take me in the next song? And then eventually, where do we end up at the end? And I do think a lot also about starting and ending with the same songs, because certainly for a lot of kids who are neurodiverse, having something familiar to ground themselves and like anchor themselves to is very helpful.
With transitions, right? Okay, now the Berkner break is ending. We've had this amazing time, and absolutely.
And now it's beginning, right? Like, it's starting now. This is, I'm now in this place, right? I like ending big, and then something small that's quiet at the end, because just to, and personally, that's sort of a sense of like, oh, I have energy. I am a live person, and I don't need to expend it all. I have an inner life that I have a lot of internal feelings about. I have feelings about the fact that this might be ending. A lot of parents come to shows and they're like, the only time my kid cried was when it was over, because they wanted more. Which is like the best thing. I mean,
the best compliment ever.
Right?
Yes.
I don't really want
but also, I'm sure you didn't end on the most energetic song. You, just like at your concerts,
Yeah, I do the same.
There's sort of a farewell song that lets everyone sort of re-regulate and get ready to not run out the door. Maybe they're going to walk out the door, Yeah.
I think also just hearing the words goodbye can be triggering for a lot of kids. And I say goodbye at the end, or I use a song that's called Good Night, but I change the words to goodbye. But it's hard. Goodbyes, transitions, leaving, not knowing when you'll see somebody again. Like, those are strong, hard feelings for a lot of kids.
On a rainy day, fire up a Berkner break. I recommend the animal one. I love it. That way you have the dinosaur sweater on, and and you can do that with your kid, right? And then practicing those transitions from high energy. On a sunny day, you may be outside on the playground, and figuring out what is that transition, especially for younger kids who have more trouble regulating from high energy to low energy. You can start to build those as parents, and we can give some ideas of what those might look like in the show notes. Berkner Bytes. Let's talk about those. Tell us who should be using those. How can they help?
Those, I actually am thinking very specifically about teachers. And so I've been working with a woman who is a master's in child brain and
Early child
early
education.
childhood
Does that
education.
sound
Thank
right?
you.
Yeah.
She also has worked with 2-year-olds, 3-year-olds, 4-year-olds, like a bunch of different of this age group that I think about a lot. And she has to fulfill these certain
Mm-hmm.
requirements. And the thing is that when I think about music, I think about, oh, you can use this music in your music time. And what she's thinking about is not only what would I use like at circle time, but what can I use when I'm doing these other things that I have to do with kids to keep them engaged, because
Ah, yes.
music makes it more fun, right?
That's
Music
right.
gives them a context. Music gives
Mm-hmm.
them energy and a beat and like, I mean, all the things, right? So she has been helping me come up with these activities that allow teachers to actually fulfill those requirements
I
by
love it.
putting on one of my songs and like, here are some ways that you can use this song that will help you fulfill the requirements you need to fulfill for your classroom.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
And those are right there on your website also, right? Is
Yeah,
that
yeah,
right?
yeah. We have them for
Perfect.
free. They're just little cards, and tried to make them as like easy and straightforward as possible, because I love hearing that people are using my music in these ways that are much more creative and interesting than I would have ever thought. It's, I'm thinking very literally like, okay, here's a song, you jump in this part, move
Yeah.
your hands in this way. And they're thinking more like, oh, Hayride. I have a song called Hayride.
Mm.
I'm on a hayride. And she said, oh, I use it. I have the kids sit in like a boat pose in yoga, like that kind of a
Huh.
pose where your butt is down
Yeah.
and your legs are up and your torso is up. And it's just,
Uh-huh.
so, and like that's actually really good for core. And then
Core. Yeah.
having your core be stronger helps with writing, with handwriting.
Yeah.
So, like, she's like,
Interesting.
that's one of the things I need in the exercise portion. I want to help them with their core. So we do Hayride, and they have to sit like that and bounce in this
Oh,
song,
that's
bump, bump, bumpity
fantastic.
bump, And so she just
Yeah.
has some really great ideas like that. And I've been reaching out to teachers also to get, like, how are you using my music other than in the music time?
Yes. As we know, actually, that rhythm with movement, and there's research that demonstrates this, when rhythm and movement actually optimizes development. When you're moving to a rhythm, rather than when you're just moving and there's no sort of beat that you're moving to, but when you're actually moving to a beat or to a rhythm, you make different brain connections, or better, if you will, improved, optimized, whatever,
Mhm.
brain connections than you do if you're moving without music. And so, another reason why parents and teachers everywhere, whenever you can integrate music and rhythm into the movement, it actually will help kids develop their gross motor skills even faster, which is so cool,
Yeah.
right?
Dance. Everybody
Yeah.
has to dance.
Yes, they should. They should. And whether you're a good dancer or not, right? And Laurie, I want to thank you as a pediatrician, because one other thing you've done really well is you've been an advocate for kids with neurodiversity or different bodies, and made your music really accessible to everyone. And do you have any sort of like stories to share, or tell us kind of what made you want to do that, or did you realize there was a need, or did you meet a particular kid? I'm just sort of curious.
There's a lot of neurodiversity in my family. It wasn't necessarily something I was all, some people I was aware of, but
Hmm.
a lot of it undiagnosed for a long time. So maybe there is a part of me that was kind of connected. I also,
Yeah.
when I first graduated from college, when I was like playing around in the East Village in Manhattan, and I had a couple of part-time jobs, and one of them was working at an adult. a center for autistic adults. It was all men. They
Ah,
were, and I was,
you've had experience. I figured
yeah,
that you did.
yeah.
Yeah.
The connection to music was so strong,
Yes.
and some of them also were, like their special interest would be like one songwriter, one performer.
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember. I wish I could remember the name of the one guy that
Yeah.
he would bring in records, and he would just tell me every single thing about it. And so that was interesting to me. And then I started getting feedback from
Hmm.
parents
Ah, interesting.
about their autistic children.
Mm-hmm.
And kids with other sort of like physical disabilities and sensory issues
Mm-hmm.
and other kind of like learning or physical disabilities and slower things that just happen at different pace, than
Sure.
what we are told is what is typical development.
Mm-hmm.
So I would get this feedback from parents saying things like, "My child was nonverbal until like a few days ago, and it's because he loves your song, Pig on Her
Oh
Head.
my goodness.
He was trying to get us to sing it, and he hasn't spoken ever before, and finally he said." Pig on her head. Like you said, the whole name of the song, but that kind of story was happening over and over again.
Ah,
My kid is sleeping with your picture. My like we those kids. I have young adults in their 20s who have been coming to my concerts since they were 3, and
that's so
still like
cool.
write
Yeah.
me all the time. They're in my Patreon fan club. Like just very, very connected, loyal fans. And I remember early on thinking there's something about my music, especially for autistic kids, but also kind of in a wider category, like seems to really connect, and I don't actually know what it is.
Yeah. Well, I
I
mean,
yeah,
I,
I
I
just
don't
remember
know.
thinking I should just keep doing whatever I'm doing.
Yeah. I mean, I think that you have this intuitive ability to connect with what it means to be human, right? The human tempo is one example, right? That, other musicians probably know about too, right? But it's more than that, right? It's this behavioral regulation. It's how to piece together all of this to induce just sort of pure joy out of anyone. I mean, it's really hard to hear your music and not just want to move and feel joy. And there's some humor woven into the lyrics, right? And it's not surprising to me that this has been your experience, but you've embraced it. And so, from pediatricians and teachers and all those who work with children everywhere, really thank you for embracing that and continuing to raise awareness. One of the things that I talk a lot about is just the phenomena of indoor recess. And a lot of teachers are under resourced, especially in the public school system. And this is just one more resource that you can pull and do at indoor recess or the Berkner break at indoor recess. Get those kids moving, do what you can to get the energy out and so that they're regulated and ready to learn. The very first podcast I did was with a principal. He started to integrate movement in the classroom. So, like, through music, through kids like jumping on and off of plyo boxes and learning their multiplication tables. And we just know when you're moving, your brain can learn and develop so much better and layer music in. And now you've got like the trifecta.
Well,
Yeah.
you just made me think like when I needed to learn a bunch of numbers,
Mm-hmm.
I learn teach them to myself in to a melody, and it was like how I taught my kid to learn our phone number when that was actually important. Which
Yeah.
is not anymore.
I was going to say, do you want to play the phone number song? But you probably don't want everyone to have your phone number. So,
But my
yes.
bank account is like da na 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 na. Like I still
Yeah.
remember that from like I don't know
See,
30 years ago when that's
guys.
how I write it down every time. It
Yeah.
made me think about that principal who's like doing math while jumping.
Yes.
There's linking music to something that you want to remember,
Yes.
linking movement to something you want to remember. It makes me also think about something that I'm sure people have noticed in their own lives. Like when you get a phone call and it's a really something important is told to you,
Hmm.
or if you're listening to a podcast or an audiobook or even music, but it can just be words and the rhythm of those words in your ears and you're doing something, when we remember those parts of the things we listen to, we remember where we were when we heard them, right?
100%. And that's what I mean about these neural connections.
Yeah, yeah,
Yes. Music and smells is the other thing. Those two things. It is undeniable. Music and movement linked together does something different to your brain. And it's a
yeah.
good thing. And so, as much as parents, as you're getting your kids moving out there, fire up some Laurie Berkner music, fire up whatever music you love, right?
Right.
But Laurie Berkner for
Exactly.
sure. and integrate that as much as you can. And especially when it's one of those rainy days, you just don't feel like moving. There's no way you got to your 60 minutes today.
Yeah.
Fire up some music. I guarantee it'll get you off the couch.
Yeah.
Guarantee it.
I don't know if people always think about doing this. It's like you have the opportunity to turn anything you're doing into a chant, right?
Ah,
Like we're
yeah.
going to the kitchen, we're going to the
Yeah.
kitchen. Like you can narrate what's
Yes.
happening, but do it in a rhythmic way. You don't have to be a singer. You don't have to have any musical background to just do something to a
That's
steady
right.
beat. So when you're and then you're
Yeah.
moving somewhere, groups of kids would come in for music and sometimes they would just be in the worst mood and they just be like,
Hmm.
so, okay, let's sing the song. No, I'm really,
Yeah.
no, everything was no, no. I just remember thinking like, okay, everybody get up and we're going to do this.
Yeah.
No, no,
There you go.
won't do it.
Yeah.
No,
It's
no. So like,
amazing.
right. So then they're
Yes.
actually like validated for the thing that
Yeah.
they're thinking. And it can be something like that. Like your kid's in a really like a funk or like I'm on the couch. I don't want to get up. I don't want to get up. I don't want to get up off the couch. Like think about repetition, think about some sort of
Yes.
steady beat, give them something, and then it gets funny.
It does. I was just gonna say, kids at
Right.
some point they will start smiling and
Right.
laughing and join.
Right.
Or
And
come back with their own chant. You know,
right. Right. So
I'm
they
going to sit and
they have a chance to be
yes.
creative. You
Yeah.
can hopefully like bring some joy into that moment. Also, it shifts the mood, right? So you're changing.
Yes.
I was just thinking about that idea of like being stuck inside. You don't have to go very far to create movement as part of what you're doing. And I think as the adult, we have an opportunity to do that all the time, as if it's something that you're thinking about and you want to do it in kind of an easy way without a like, come on, get up off the couch, come on, do whatever. You don't have to
Yes.
convince them, if you're
Yeah.
doing it like you said at the very beginning, that when kids see their own parents or the adults
Yeah.
around them moving and doing things, they're much more likely to do it as well. So, you're modeling in your own home as well.
Yes. There's quite a bit of research around if you listen to music while you're moving, even if you're moving really intensely. So, like maybe the extreme example is an adult going out for a run. That if you've got music on that you like, your perceived sort of level of exertion, meaning how you feel about how hard you're working, will be less. So you're going to move more, you're going to move harder, if you will, more vigorously, if you will. And that's also true for children. So when they are having some music going, when they're moving, they'll move more. They'll sort of work harder, if you will, with their bodies than they would if they didn't.
Also, length of time, right? I mean, just
Yes, that's right.
anecdotally, we can all relate to that. Like,
Yep.
okay, you put the song on and suddenly 3 minutes have gone by. But if you sit there and you just wait for the 3 minutes to
Yeah,
go,
it's an eternity. Oh,
right?
I'm
Totally.
still running. But
Yeah,
like, if you're running to the
exactly.
beat of the song, yeah, 100%. So true. Anything else though that in general that you feel like we should touch on that we didn't?
I wish I could just sort of like hold all the parents who don't feel like they are musical enough to bring music to their kids, allow themselves to be silly and make things up that are like that their kid might like laugh at as much as laugh with them, you know,
Yes.
and
Yeah.
like not be afraid to do that, to take that risk because or even just to like try to remind themselves how important that is, even if music isn't the first thing that they think about because of how much it gives to the kids.
Yes.
And as a parent or as a caregiver or as somebody who is helping raise a child, like we can give that to them Really pretty easily, as long
Yeah.
as we don't have to worry too much about like how we're being perceived or if we're doing it right.
Just like you're saying, if you're not a musical parent, this is such a wonderful way to connect with your children and just try some of Laurie's songs and find which ones work. And you can do whatever works for you. If you can carry a tune, sing along, move along, most everyone can move along and just find that joy with your kid. I totally agree, adding that in to everyday life. So if you were to help me write a prescription around how to use music to get to 60 minutes of active play every day, what would be some of your top suggestions?
Well, first things just what comes to mind are like dance party. You just put on music that you like, your kid likes, find something where you intersect, and then you
Yes.
can move. Doing something that you have to get done anyway, do it to
Hmm.
music. And
Yes.
then also maybe like you could do jukebox stuff, or like where you see what comes up, or maybe ask your kid
Yeah.
what the songs are that they really want to hear. And even if it's something you don't like be willing to get up or maybe even switch. Okay, I pick a song, you pick a song.
Yeah.
But like give them agency and a lot and like power and feeling like they can listen to something that they feel is their music and that you are doing with them because they want to do it, not because you want to do it. I think that is
I love
something
it.
that would make it much more likely that your kids will want to be involved
Love
and
it.
moving for 60 minutes. It's a long time.
Yeah, I know. And it's not 60 minutes in a row, right? The idea is just that cumulatively, yeah,
Yeah.
that we get to 60 minutes. And that's through recess or walking and biking to school and, all the ways. And it used to be, looking back in history, this was no problem. 40 years ago, kids move way beyond this easily, just without any, just the way life was. And
Yeah.
life has just become so tech heavy and everything else that it's just, if you look at the graph, gone down year after year. So
Yeah.
thanks for getting kids moving everywhere through your
Sure.
music, because you really have. For more tips, resources, and show notes, visit activeplayeveryday.com. And if you found this episode helpful, please help us out by rating and reviewing the show from wherever you're listening. It really helps other families find us. Until next time, consider this your active play prescription, because play isn't extra, it's essential.